Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan Ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji.
Welcome, everyone, to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India. The physical body is the physical body. It is made of matter, and it follows the rules of matter. Whether you are a spiritual being who happens to be scientific, a scientific being, someone identifies as a scientist who happens to be spiritual. So you're both. Whether you are a spiritual being who hates science or a scientific being who hates spirituality, or someone who's neither spiritual nor scientific, either way, in every one of these circumstances, if you walk off the top of a building, you will fall to the ground. No one has wings and can fly. Regardless of how spiritual I may be, how enlightened I may be even, if I walk off the top of a building, I will fall to the ground. Because the law of gravity interacts with the physical material of my body in such a way that is completely separate from my experience spiritually. Now, one who is spiritual might have a very different experience of plummeting to their death than someone who is not spiritual. But in either case, you're going to fall down. Because of that law of science upon matter. If you stand in Ganga, you will get wet. No, you will get wet. You will also feel, hopefully, peace and love, but the physical body will get wet. Law of science. Spirituality is not about conquering science. The same God who created us created gravity. Newton didn't create gravity, he just discovered it, named it. The laws of nature exist because the same creator created them. So spirituality is not against the laws of science. It's about how to realize you are not that which is subject to them. So the body is aging, for example, regardless of what pill you may take, what tonic you may drink. I just got back from America last week in California, and I always laugh. You drive through the streets of LA, and wherever you look, there is someone else promising that behind their doors are the secrets of immortality, age reversal, age defying, young forever. I mean, amazing. A cream. A mask. A wrap. Somehow, It's going to undo all of the laws of nature that have been in existence for billions of years. Of course not. Now, as we age, we get to make decisions. Do we prefer the color brown or yellow or black to the color gray? If so, people dye their hair. If not, we don't dye our hair. Either way, it has nothing to do with aging or not aging. The body is subject to these laws. It's going to age eventually. It's going to die eventually. Whether through sickness, whether through accident, whether through a mosquito bite, or whether through just at some point, or through coronavirus, or through at some point the soul leaves the body. The point of spirituality is not, how can I figure out how not to be subject to the laws of science? In fact, Puja Swamiji, my guru, tells a beautiful story of when he had first come here, going back now 50 plus years. And one day this saint came to the ashram who said, I can walk on water. And everybody was amazed. Wow. And he showed them. He actually demonstrated. He walked out onto the river and he walked on the waters of Ganga. And everybody was amazed and they sat around him. How did you do that? He said, I've spent 40 years engaged in this very, very specific type of spiritual practice. And now I can do it. He says, if you want, I will teach you. So Puja Swamiji says to him, for 5 rupees, this boat guy will take me across the river and I can spend the next 40 years of my life in service of humanity rather than figuring out how to defy the laws of nature. It's not about the highest form of spirituality is not what kind of tricks can I do to defy the laws of nature. It's about how can I use that which I've been given in the best possible way for what it's been given to me for. If God had wanted us to fly, he would have given us wings. If he'd wanted us to be able to walk on water, we wouldn't be subject to the laws of gravity. But he's put us here with compassion, with love, with initiative, with creativity, with consciousness, so that we may use those to wake up, to realize the truth of who we are, and to use our lives in service of God in creation. So, spirituality is not the answer to this disease or that disease. I mean, yes, on a very basic level, we also know people who are spiritual actually do tend to have more robust immune systems. Separate subject, I happen to know it because I am a scientist. I love the science. I've done a lot of research in this. So we actually do know that people who are spiritual have robust immune systems, do tend to be healthier. But that's not the point. It's not you become spiritual so that you get a robust immune system. It's a beautiful byproduct of living in balance with the world. Because of course the flip side is we know that stress is correlated with something like 80-85% of illnesses. And so naturally you can understand on a very simplistic level, if I'm deeply spiritual, if I'm grounded and rooted in faith, in something that's beyond the body, beyond my bank account, chances are I'm going to be less stressed out by every fluctuation in the stock market. Chances are I'm going to be less stressed by the bathroom scale or my colleagues at work or the traffic on the freeway. Therefore, immune system gets stronger. That's one way it works. There's other ways also it works. But the point is, that's a beautiful byproduct. It's not go to God so that you don't catch the flu this season. It's go to God because that's why you're here. And you know what? Along the way, most of us are going to have some combination of colds and flus and ailments and injuries. It's part of the human package. So as long as we're talking about, ending suffering, why stop at coronavirus? Lots more people are dying of lots more things than that. A few hundred people have died of that. Tens of thousands of children have died today of starvation. What about them? Because for them, we actually do have a cure. The scientists will work it out for coronavirus eventually. But those tens of thousands of children who are dying of starvation every day, while those of us who have the luxury to choose are choosing to eat in such a way that it's actually pulling the food out of their mouths, that our dietary choices, the whole business of animal agriculture, of meat production, that literally takes the planet's grains and turns them into hamburgers and hot dogs and chicken McNuggets instead of bread and rice for those who are hungry. That's something we can do something about. And that is a spiritual problem. Because you don't die of starvation because somebody sneezed on you or because you got bit by the wrong mosquito. They're dying of starvation very directly because we are not living spiritual lives. Because we're not connected to our oneness with them. And so let's start with what we know we can impact. There's so much in the world today. And it's beautiful to see your passion for working for it. Let's keep the trees in the ground. Stop cutting them down to graze the cows that become hamburgers. Stop cutting them down for more and more oil. Let's keep our planet fed. We grow enough grain every day for 10 billion people. There's only 7 plus something billion on Earth. Let the grain go to the hungry children rather than insisting that it go via livestock because I want to eat hamburgers and hot dogs and chicken McNuggets. Let's buy organic so that our earth and our water stays healthy, so that our sisters and brothers who are drinking the water of the rivers are not drinking agricultural toxic runoff. It's a beautiful opportunity, actually, because when you look at it as living consciously, rather than just finding a cure to one illness, it's something that every one of us can do every single minute of every single day. It's how we eat. It's how we shop. It's our footprint upon Mother Earth. As long as our motto is more, 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 cheaper, 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 women and children will keep dying in sweatshops in third world countries. It's just the law of supply and demand. But the minute that we say no more, the minute that we're actually prepared to wear the same clothes as last year, and not necessarily buy a new model mobile just because a new model has come out, the minute that we actually are able, as Gandhiji, I think, said, to live simply so that others may simply live, then every minute becomes meditation. Every minute becomes my spiritual life.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Alaya, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me. It always reminds us, you've got to be connected. This incredible technology that serves us so beautifully, it only works when it's connected. Like us also in our lives, no matter how much of an education we may have, how many skills or abilities or talents we may have, we're only really able to be tools in God's hands, only really able to be tools for the divine flow when we're connected. So I love these regular reminders. As I was saying before the sound got on, we're back here on the banks of Mother Ganga. Over the last week, 10 days, it's been such extraordinary weather. Rain, wind. Today is calm and sunny and we're back. And today is the day right after Ganga Dashera. Yesterday was Mother Ganga's sacred birthday. Today is Nirjala Ekadashi. These sacred, holy days. And how blessed we are to be here on the banks of Mother Ganga at this time. It's always a blessing, but especially on these holy days, to be able to be in this holy place. And for those of you, all of you, connecting with us through technology, through these incredible waves, you're with us also. Even if physically you are in your home, in your apartment, somewhere else in the world, energetically you're here with us. We feel you. So take a moment and connect to being here with us. Connect to being here on these sacred waters of Mother Ganga. Your body may not be here, but your heart, your spirit, your energetic connection can definitely be here. So allow yourself this beautiful time, not just to listen to satsang, but also to actually be here on the banks of Mother Ganga. Arrive here in that consciousness, in that beautiful presence of being. How does psychotherapy interact with meditation in the process of letting go and surrendering? Which one is more beneficial? Psychology, therapy, and spirituality, meditation, they don't substitute for each other. They're both important. And surely, hopefully, you've got enough time to do both. Because when we speak about surrender, there's two different elements of surrender. One element is the spiritual element, that connection to God, that sense of absolute knowing, not intellectual knowing, but deep knowing that you are one with the divine. Deep knowing that this extraordinary intelligence of the universe, this extraordinary power of the universe is working for you. If you're working for yourself, it's working for you. Sometimes we work against ourselves, and that's a different problem. But if you're working for yourself also, for your spiritual growth, for your spiritual opening, for your spiritual awakening, for that truth, the universe is working for you. So the spiritual element of surrender is due to the connection with the one to whom you are surrendering. So for me, one of the best ways of thinking about this is if you've ever seen kids in a swimming pool. You've got the mom or the dad standing in the pool, and the little kid is standing right on the edge of the pool. And the mom or the dad has their arms like this. And I've seen this in so many places all over the world. It's pretty universal in terms of teaching kids to swim. So the mom or the dad is in the pool, holding their arms up like this, and they're saying, come on, come on, come on, jump. And the kid is on the edge of the pool, looking. You can tell wants to jump. Mom or dad is there, but is scared. There's something holding him back, which is good, actually. It's pure Darwinian survival of the fittest that we are too nervous to just jump in the water when we can't swim. But eventually, because it's mom or dad, the child jumps. And of course, mom or dad catches the child. Then the child laughs and says, oh, I want to do it again, and goes back on and jumps again. Now that fear is over. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful moment to watch, because it's not that they're no longer afraid of water. It's that the faith in mom or dad who's standing there is so full that that child knows wherever my mom is, wherever my dad is, it's safe. So the spiritual side of surrender is not, I know this water is going to be okay. Not suddenly I know how to swim. But I'm so connected with the one into whose arms I'm jumping. I know that one so well, so deeply, so fully, that I jump fully, because I know. My mom's there, my dad's there, God is there, the universe is there. There's an arms waiting to catch me. So we surrender. That's the spiritual side. And for that connection, our meditation is important. All of our spiritual practice is important. Otherwise, we don't know. We don't know God. It would be like a child who, it was some random unknown person standing in the pool saying jump. No way. No kid's going to do it. Only when it's mom or dad. So in the same way, without our spiritual practice, without meditation, we don't know God. Which means we cannot surrender because we don't know the one into whose arms we are jumping. And sometimes, not always, by any means, but sometimes, frequently in fact, even when we know God, even when we love God, we're connected to God, something holds us back. Mom or dad is standing there. I know my mom or dad. I love mom and dad. Nonetheless, I can't jump. Why? Well, because maybe at some earlier time, I jumped and I wasn't caught. Maybe somebody picked me up and threw me into the pool when mom and dad weren't there and I almost drowned. I had some sort of a traumatic experience around water, around jumping, or some sort of traumatic experience in life in general that has made me fearful, that has taken away my ability to trust. And that's where psychology is so helpful. That's where therapy is so helpful. Because so many people have that sense of, I know what I should do, but I don't know why I can't. I know what I want to do. I know the truth, but I can't live it. We're held back by these invisible chains. And those invisible chains, in most cases, are our subconscious. Things that have happened in our life, experiences we've had, that have created what in Indian culture we speak about as sanskaras, impressions. In the West, we talk about it as neural networks or neuronal patterns, sometimes neuroses. Everything connected to the brain, to the mind. Something has happened that has made that system, that brain-mind system, go awry. And that's where psychology is so helpful. Because a lot of times we may know theoretically, oh, that's just my ego. But just knowing in theory that's just my ego, unfortunately doesn't always make it go away. Unfortunately, there's still frequently some work to be done to understand the way that ego is playing us, is holding us. And that's what psychology does. It frees us. It frees us from the chains of the past, from those neuroses, from our habits, from our patterns, from that sense of a small self. Spirituality shows us the ocean into which we are leaping. Spirituality shows us that we've actually never been separate from the ocean. That the whole idea of me leaping into ocean is actually an illusion. I am ocean. There is nothing but ocean. I never was separate from the ocean. And it gives us that experience of knowing, of connecting, of oneness. But tragically still, sometimes there's this invisible chain holding you back. No matter what beautiful moments in meditation you have, no matter the ecstasy you have in the meditation, the light, the freedom you experience, nonetheless, throw you into a room with your parents, your in-laws, a spouse, a difficult colleague, a difficult neighbor, an ex-best friend. And suddenly, we're full of anger, full of grudges, full of fear, full of desires, yearning, aversions, full of so much that we know isn't who we are. And that's where the world of psychology is very helpful. So fortunately, they go together very beautifully. The only really important piece to realize is, and to remember is, while you're meditating, just meditate. Don't turn your meditation into psychoanalysis. Sometimes in meditation, something comes up, and that analytic mind says, oh, okay, so that was, in 5th grade that happened, or 1st grade this happened, or my cousin this, or my uncle that. And suddenly the mind wants to start analyzing. And insight is beautiful. Introspection is beautiful. It's essential. But not while you're meditating. And so if as you're meditating things come up, just put them aside. If you're really afraid you're going to forget, keep a notepad or a little dictaphone or something, not your phone. You don't want to be tempted to, there's a message. But one of the old-fashioned, just it records machines, or an old-fashioned pad and pen, whatever it may be. If you're afraid you're going to forget, keep it there. But then allow your meditation to just be about meditation. And then allow your analysis, your introspection, your insight to happen at other times after your meditation. Have your specific time for introspection, for insight.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. When you watch, observe your thoughts and feelings, isn't that still thinking? So the question is drawing a distinction between two different aspects of teaching. One is the watching of our thoughts and feelings, which is something I speak about a lot, both as we meditate, as well as just in life. But then also this concept of freeing yourself from the tyranny of the thinking mind. And so, well, isn't watching my thoughts and feelings also thinking? So, interestingly, it's not actually about thinking as bad or thoughts as bad. It's not about bad or good, or one is something we should do, one is something we shouldn't do. It's about having access to the full scope of who you are. And so the problem with being a slave to the thinking mind is it literally keeps me in jail. The jail being the jail of my own mind. Those of us with overactive minds, you don't need me to tell you it's a jail. You know that. That's your day-to-day, minute-to-minute, moment-to-moment existence of the mind. You wouldn't have such a movement of people from non-Hindu, non-Buddhist, non-Eastern countries turning toward meditation if the thinking mind weren't experienced as a problem. Those of us not born and raised in an Eastern culture would never turn toward these practices if living in the tyranny of our thinking mind didn't create problems for us. So the thoughts are not the problem. The problem is that once you're in their grip of the thinking mind, it's very, very difficult to get out. And it becomes almost like you are one of those hamsters on the treadmills, and you're running and you're running and you're running and you're running, but you don't actually get anywhere other than very tired. Thinking in the mind requires an agreement within myself of separation. And so the thinking mind can only think about something. So if I am doing a math problem, or I'm balancing my checkbook, or I'm trying to figure out directions to where I'm going, or I'm making a list of pros and cons about different career choices or different life paths or different places to buy or rent a house or different, whatever it may be. The thinking mind is fantastic. It's not a problem per se. It's only a problem when I hand over my entire existence and free will to it. It's only a problem when it becomes the master of my life rather than a tool in my life. And so if I can use it, like we have our five senses, we understand, we use them. They're all tools. I understand that that which I see is not the beginning and the end of what exists, which is why I'm very glad to have other senses as well. I understand that there's a lot of existence out there that I can't smell or that I can't taste. We understand they all work together in the combined experience. And yet, there's a whole world out there also that our five senses can't tell us about. And most of us are aware of that. We tend to lump it into the concept of intuition. It's like all else goes under the umbrella of intuition. But the thinking mind really in many ways is a sense. It's one way for us to interpret the world. But just like my organ of sight functions very mathematically based on angles between the two eyes in visual fields, based on waves of light, based on movement, my thinking mind functions only in separation. So if I were using my two eyes, there would be a distance at which I can read what's on this paper, and a distance at which I can't read it, based on that which works with the angles of my eyes and that which doesn't work. And that's where, as we get older, we have to start, and they say you need glasses when your arms aren't long enough. So the angles of the eyes have changed such that I can no longer experience the words on this page with my eyes. My mind is a sense just like that. It requires the world to be held at an arm's length. Then I can think about it. So I can do a math problem. I can do balancing a checkbook. I can do a list of pros and cons. I can pass judgment. I can have preferences. I can have all sorts of subjective labeling. I can do all the things that you do when something is held at an arm's length away from you. Even if I think about myself, even when we become introspective about the self, it's me looking at the self who is different from the me who is looking, right? Those of you who have practiced introspection, which is one of Puja Swamiji, my guru's deepest teachings, is this practice of introspection. When you do it, it's one aspect of me looking at another aspect of me. And I'm introspecting. Where did I lose my temper? Where did I lose myself? Where did my ego get a hold of me? So I'm holding myself, my lowercase s self, at an arm's length, and I'm looking at it. I'm introspecting on it. Now here's the dilemma. That's great for all things separate from the part of me that's thinking about them or looking at them. But it deprives me of the experience and the awareness and the understanding of all of that which is to be known in connection. And so it deprives me of everything to be known through intuition, through love, through spirituality, through oneness, through a truth that is different than you are separate than me. Thinking mind will look out and see lots of people, different sizes, different shapes, different colors. But the heart, the real seer, looks out and sees the self. Looks out and feels the energy of connection. And you feel it. If you let yourself do it, there's a little beautiful sort of energy sizzle that happens when you have that experience with looking at another being and knowing that you're connected, knowing that you're one, whether you've ever met them before or not. There's a recognition of the self, and it sizzles, of energy. Now, the thinking mind can't do that. And one of the issues that comes up a lot in meditation is the minute I start wondering as I'm meditating about what stage I'm at in meditation, about whether I'm going to get enlightened tonight, whether this is the soul I've experienced, the minute I have that question in my mind, I've lost it. Regardless of what it was, the minute the mind starts to think about it, I've lost it. Because it's happening separate from the mind. And so when we teach about watch your thoughts, watch your feelings, no, it's not thinking, actually. Thinking is jumping into them. Thinking is engaging with them. And so let's say that I'm meditating, and as I'm meditating, I hear a car horn honking outside my window. So it's just a sound at that moment. It's just a sensation. A car horn is honking. Now, my thought jumps in. Oh, God, I hate this stupid neighborhood. Never should have moved here. I cannot believe I let her convince me to move here. You know, my whole life, all we do is what she wants. I never get my way. It's been like this since we were kids. I really need to stand up and tell her. Now, it was a car horn. And suddenly, I could be back at 4 years old with a sister who stole my Play-Doh and nobody told her not to. Or any one of another billion options, depending on what our relationship to that sound may be. It could even be, oh God, that's the same exact sound that my boyfriend's car used to make when he used to come pick me up. God, I really miss him. I never should have broken up with him. That was such a bad decision. You know, thought I was going to, do something else. And he was a nice guy. God, I remember we went out to that restaurant once. Haven't been there in such a long time. They made such great falafel. I should go have falafel again. Car horn. Falafel, right? Where do we go? Now, when we say watch the thoughts, what it means is I'm meditating, car horn is there. The first thought is simply car horn. Before I go anywhere, before there's the thought of I hate this neighborhood, or that reminds me of a boyfriend, or I hope I'm not late for my ride, before that, the very first thought is car horn. Now, if I can catch it there, if I watch that happen, I've acknowledged it. I've watched that I had a thought. And I then bring the awareness back to the breath. Thinking is you jump into the thought and you follow it. So an easy way to think about it visually is if you're lying on your back and you're looking up at the sky on a beautiful blue sky day, and wispy clouds start coming. So if a cloud starts in that part of the sky, one option is you notice it all the way over there and you follow it while it comes across the sky. Another way is you stay focused on the blueness of the sky, and just for a brief moment that cloud crosses your awareness, but your focus stays on the blueness of the sky. And the goal is that. Stay focused on that space between the thoughts. And the reason that we watch them is not about getting involved in the movie. It's not about, oh, that was a good thought. Yeah, let's see where that one goes. It's because by watching them, I become aware of the craziness of my own mind. That's usually the first thing that happens to most of us. If you've never watched your thoughts, chances are you have a much better impression of the working of your mind than you should. The very first time most people really watch their thoughts is this extraordinary experience of humility. Oh my God, it is such a mess in there. It's like opening a closet that you haven't opened in years and you forgot what you've stuffed in there, and you open it up and suddenly everything falls out onto your head. It's like that. The mind is moving so fast and we don't even notice it. But that's what keeps us from being able to actually live in connection. Because if I'm thinking about you, I can't be connecting with you. Now, thinking about her isn't wrong. I can look at her and I can say, oh, beautiful young woman. I can think so many different beautiful things about her. But that's from a place of separation. It's judgment. Even if it's positive, it's still judgment. And the higher truth is, self. A different package. But look at that. I can actually connect with myself in her. And that's where that energetic, beautiful sizzle comes for that moment. And so we watch our thoughts to make sure that they don't swoop us up and carry us away. When that happens, it's called thinking. Now, circling back for a moment, thinking isn't bad by any means. It's a great tool as long as you're in control. So if you have something you need to think about, by all means, think about it. Use the thinking mind. But don't let it run away with you. It's like if you have a hammer, it's a great tool for the nails that you need to be hammered into your wall. But that doesn't mean that you take it and allow it to beat itself into you all day long, just because it happens to be a useful tool for some other things. You understand it has its place. When there's a nail, I will use it. When there is not a nail, I'm going to let it alone. Same thing with the thinking mind. When I need to think about something, I'm going to use it. But when I allow myself to be captured by it, I've stolen my own freedom. Because there is no freedom in the mind. The freedom exists in the heart. Because freedom exists only when I am aware of the fullness of who I am. If I'm identifying only as what the mind can do, which is this body, this history, these urges, these accomplishments, these bits of knowledge, this past, this anxiety, this personality, well, that's anything but free. That's a very temporary existence. My freedom comes in knowing that I'm not that, or that I'm certainly not at least only that. I also have a body, but I'm not the body. I have a brain that thinks, but I'm not the brain that thinks. And who I am is expansive and boundless. But I need to break out of the confines of the brain to be able to do that. Because the brain can't wrap itself around that which is one. And that's okay. Neither can a hammer. But that's why we don't use them for that. That's where we drop into our hearts. That's where we drop into the experience of oneness. That's where we drop into our intuitive way of knowing. So watch the thoughts and feelings to keep yourself from being hijacked by them. But don't hook yourself into them as the thinking mind. This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week, and I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on OMTimes Radio.